how good would Ninetales be if it were a fire ghost Pokemon? It's a question that has been asked numerous times by commenters on the channel, but honestly, of all of the type change runs that I've done so far, this might actually be the most lore appropriate one of all. Of course, Ninetales is based on kind of legendary fox demons in Japan who have magical abilities, including ways to trick human beings and change their forms. So it kind of makes sense that this Pokemon could behave kind of like a ghost or an ethereal being. Plus, when you look at some of the movesets throughout the history of the Pokemon franchise, it has a lot of ghost-like qualities. Of course, in Gen 1, it got access to Confuse Ray, but in Gen 2, they also added an egg move to Vulpix, which was Hypnosis. Going forward from there, from Gen 4 onward, this Pokemon could learn Dream Eater, and in the most modern gens, it can even learn moves like Nightshade. So basically, this Pokemon could learn all of the moves that were on the Gen 1 Gengar line via level up, except for Lick. And it's not like anybody's sad about not getting a 20 base power move here. So I have gone ahead and just changed this Pokemon to have the ghost typing and have a starting moveset of Ember, Hypnosis, Confuse Ray, and Nightshade, combining all of those changes that we've seen from the later generations. I've also updated it so that it will actually learn level up moves. Normally it doesn't learn any in Gen 1, but of course normally a Vulpix would get Quick Attack, Roar, Confuse Ray, Flamethrower, and Fire Spin via level up as well. I just decided to throw those ones on there. But I've also made a couple of minor tweaks to the TM Learn set, because again, starting from Gen 4, this Pokemon could learn Solar Beam, which will give us at least a coverage move against water and rock type Pokemon, and could synergize well with Sleep and Confusion, just giving us the turns we need to set that up. Then I've also added on Dream Eater so that when we get that TM later in the game, we can learn it with this Pokemon if we want to, and that might actually be a viable strategy for the late game, especially when you consider that this is Gen 1, so there's only one special stat, and Ninetales has a special of 100. We're really going to want those special attacking moves. Still, let's just see how completely OP this Pokemon turns out to be, or does it turn out not to actually be that great because of the fire type and the weaknesses to rock, ground, and water? We'll just have to find out. Let's get into it. So today, as we step outside of Pallet Town, Professor Oak is going to see a fox demon and he's going to capture it. He's just going to give it to the first 10-year-old who comes walking along. And for once, he's going to ditch the nepotism and actually kind of stunt on his grandson for being a jerk by giving us a Pokemon that his starter cannot even hit. So this Rival 1 fight's going to be completely trivial, but let's get into it. Here we are with Ghost Tails, the true Ninetales, and we're starting off with, of course, Ember as our strongest move. I think it's going to do more damage than the Nightshade. Sure enough, it does. It's like 7 damage. So this is a 3-hit KO on his Eevee. Now, important to note, I am running this Ninetales on 0 DVs, the weakest possible Ninetales, because honestly, the Ghost type plus Sleep might make this Pokemon completely overpowered. We're going to have to see if that's actually the case though, or does it turn out to actually hit a wall somewhere? Maybe because it can outspeed Giovanni's Doug Trio, for example, it could run into a serious issue, but we'll just wait to get there to find out. Now, it's also worth noting I am not running this Pokemon as a traded Pokemon because it's not actually a legit Ninetales. Normally, if I were running a Ninetales just with the egg move Hypnosis, I would treat it as a traded Pokemon, which would bring in Disobedience, and that would probably end the run right around Misty based on my previous run with a traded Vulpix. I'm not sure that the extra stats would actually help us that much in that situation. So we're going to go with just full obedience in this one. So we're going to see this Ninetales at its full potential. And of course, the bug catcher in Viridian Forest will be no issue. So let's make our way straight to Brocky Boy and just see if maybe the Nightshade plus Hypnosis plus the fact that his Geodude can't damage us is enough to get through this. So coming to the Brock fight on minimum battles, of course, we know that this Geodude can do nothing, and we're just going to spam Nightshade doing 6 damage per hit. And so it's not going to be the fastest KO by any means, but we will get a 5-hit KO on this Pokemon. We get to level 8 as the Onyx comes out. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon because it is faster than me. And there is a glitch in Gen 1 where Bind will do no damage to a ghost, but it will still show the animation and prevent you from moving. Still, as long as we don't give him a bunch of damage while he's using Bind, we should be fine. And we'll use Confusion to help break up Bind if he does use that move. Here, however, when he's on low health, we can just go all in on attack with Nightshade and knock him out on the first attempt with no damage taken as we get to level 9. So Ninetales completely destroys Brock on minimum battles. Even with me doing live commentary, it only takes 4 minutes and 18 seconds here. And it's worth noting, a normal Ninetales can beat Brock on minimum battles, but it requires getting burns in the right situations to lower the attack of the Geodude. You're not even going for the chip damage because Brock has 5 full heals per Pokemon, but between the attack stat lowering effects of burns, plus the fact that you can use quick attack and tail whip in order to just hit the Onyx before it can damage you with Bide. That's the way that this Pokemon usually gets through, but it takes a lot of attempts to get it to go. Here, however, this is perfectly consistent, or at least as close to consistent as you're gonna get as a slower Pokemon. So I think this is perfectly legit. But with that done, we can now make our way on to Misty, who might be the first true wall in this challenge. So I'm definitely gonna go up to Billy Boy's house. I might even take on Rival 3 before I take on Misty. Let's just see how this works out. Still before that, we've got to knock out a bunch of trainers on Route 3 and in Mount Moon. So I don't think any of these randos will be difficult. We'll make it straight to the end of the Mount Moon section to take on that super nerd first and just see how he goes. And sure enough, we get to the super nerd without even taking any damage in this section. So let's just get into this fight and see how it goes. Of course, the first Grimer can't do anything other than disable us. So I'm just going to spam Ember here. It looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO here, which would have been the case with Nightshade as well. So I don't think that's too bad. Up next is the Voltorb, which also can't affect us with anything other than Screech. And this is going to be another 4-hit KO with the Ember. So Nightshade would have helped us there. Now we make it to the Coughing though. We get a critical hit turn 1 and it can only hit us with Smog doing like no damage. And here we can simply Nightshade it down, getting the easy victory on the Super Nerd. Let's go ahead and grab the Dome Fossil since we know it's the superior fossil here, and since obviously ghosts don't have DNA, so there's no reason we would need a Helix. And now let's make our way to the Jesse and James fight. Now this was the fight when I did the trade back Vulpix that actually turned out to be a major wall. We were just taking way too much damage from their moves, but here is a ghost. We don't really have that much to worry about. We're going to get a 3-hit KO on the Ekans with Nightshade, so I'm just going to use that. Out comes the Meowth. It does have fairly low special, so let's just see what Ember does. Still looks to be a 3-hitter here, but that's going to be the same either way. And finally, we get to the last Coughing, and this one is going to be a 3-hit KO no matter what we do as well. So very easy fight to get through Jesse and James, and we're on to Cerulean City. Now, if there's one thing that's different from the last Gengar run that I did, it's the fact that we're not immune to all physical types of damage. So if we come and fight this junior trainer, for example, she can peck us, but I'm just going to confuse her Goldeen and then see what we do with different damage types. Let's just use Nightshade to hopefully take this one down nice and quick. Sure enough, we do, so we can get a little extra XP before we can take on the Rival. And really, the Rival doesn't threaten us with that much. He could just use a lot of sand attacks that would make the fight really tedious. So I figure it's better to have as much XP as we can as we go into this one. So Rival number 2, attempt number 1. Grandpa's decision to give him an Eevee is still going to haunt him for a minute. He's going to lead off with the Spearow. Let's just go ahead and give this one a few embers to knock it out. It's a 3-hit KO. Out next comes the Sandshrew, and we could learn the move Quick Attack here, but I'm actually going to skip this move because I don't think I need it. We don't have as high attack as we have special, so I think we basically want to be a special attacker this entire run. Here I am going to put Sandshrew to sleep to try to avoid some of those sand attacks, and this is going to be a 3-hit KO with Nightshade here. We can probably just Ember it down. Sure enough, we can. Rattata can do nothing, so it's just an easy 2-hit KO with Ember, and that brings out the Eevee, which also knows sand attack. That's the only reason I'm going Hypnosis here, is just to try to avoid sand attack spam, and then we can go back into our damage dealing moves. It looks like it's a 4-hit KO either way. I guess it would have been a 3-hitter with Nightshade, but still we get through just fine. So yeah, the rival didn't pose any issue to us. He's not going to pose an issue until we get later in the challenge when he gets a cloister, for example. That's the point where we won't have any great moves, but at least fire will be neutrally effective there, and with sleep we can probably get it to go, but we'll just have to see when we get there. Still, for now, let's just make our way up to Billy Boy's house and scare him with a few ghost tales. And still on minimum battles, we reached the oddish last with really no issues here. The only real problem is that our attacking moves didn't have enough PP, so we had to go and heal once. But with that done, we can just one-shot all of the oddish last's Pokemon, and we're on to Billy Boy's house. Let's check in on him here with our Phantom Pikachu that doesn't actually exist. Sorry, it's a little relic of the ROM hack that I've made here. But between that Phantom Pikachu and the fact that we have a Ghost Ninetales, we're going to scare Billy Boy to go into the closet here. But we're going to tell him, hey, we didn't come here to scare you. We just heard from our rival that we could check on your PC search history, and we just wanted to know what you've been looking at. So while he's a little distracted, let's just check and see what he was looking at, and yeah. Remember, clear your PC browser history. Anyway, it's time to go fight the innocent bystander. Then I'll take one attempt at Misty since we are already at level 20 and about to get to level 21. Let's just see how this goes. Now, against the innocent bystander, of course, the Machop can't damage us, so this is going to be an easy KO. Drowsy comes out next. I'm just going to confuse this Pokemon. It puts me to sleep, which is not ideal. But fortunately, in this one, we're not weak to Psychic like the previous run that I did on the channel. Though on low health, I think we have to try to put the Drowsy to sleep. And oh no, are we going to get knocked out by a Drowsy here? Sure enough, we do. That is our first reset of the run. So we're going to have to actually put the opponent to sleep here because of the fact that if we miss, like we missed Hypnosis a bunch of times last time and get put to sleep enough turns, we can actually lose this fight. Still, with the Drowsy asleep, it's just a 3-hit KO with Nightshade, so we win on the second attempt. We could learn Roar. We're not going to learn Roar, but that also gives us access to Dig, which could be a useful move. It is a strong physical move, but I'm going to hold off on it for now. Let's just go ahead and see if we can beat Misty with the moveset that we have currently. Maybe this works out. So Misty attempt number 1. We are, of course, already faster than this Staryu, so we just need to put this Pokemon to sleep, and I think we're going to be fine. Even the Water Gun only did 16 damage, so it's really not that bad. And after we get it to sleep, it's just going to be a 2-hit KO with Nightshade. So this is an easy victory, but now we have to worry about the Starmie, which is 7 points in speed faster than us. So even just gaining 1 or 2 levels is not going to be enough to outspeed here. We got to hope that it goes for the Water Gun just like that and that we can put it to sleep. Unfortunately, we missed 2 Hypnosises this time. She can also X defend, which would be pretty good for us, so let's just keep that in mind as well. This time we put the Staryu to sleep turn 1 and she X defends, and that's just going to guarantee we get through the first Pokemon with no damage. So back to the Starmie, it goes Water Gun, but this time we managed to put it to sleep. I'm going to confuse it as well so that it has a chance to hit itself in confusion if it wakes up. She X defense, and now this is going to be a 3-hit KO with the Nightshade. We get a critical hit Water Gun after it wakes up though to knock us out, so we lose the second attempt. Still, this is pretty darn close. It's definitely a winnable fight, so I'm going to give it just a couple more attempts. It's worth noting we can survive 1 Bubble Beam here as well, so we really just need to keep the Starmie asleep or have it hit itself in confusion like that when it wakes up. Unfortunately, we just couldn't land the Hypnosis there. If we knew that it was going to hit itself twice, obviously we could have gone all in on attack, but you don't know that in advance, which is why I was trying to put it back to sleep there. This time we get a Gen 1 miss from Bubble Beam, allowing us to put the Starmie to sleep with no damage taken. So now if it wakes up and hits us with a Water Gun, that's not actually going to matter, and it just stays asleep. So we actually beat Misty with no damage thanks to the Gen 1 miss. Oh, Misty, she deserved that. So 4 attempts to get through Misty, 19 minutes, 34 seconds. It's not perfect anymore, but we are on minimal battles with the Ninetales, and we went in at level 21, so we were at the same level as our ace. I feel pretty good about that given that we're a fire-type Pokemon. Now, normally what you would do on minimum battles with this Pokemon, of course, is to use Dig, and you would go down to fight Rival 3 to get as many levels as possible. You'd also think about burning those 2 rare candies here. It's not an impossible fight on minimum battles with a normal Ninetales Ninetales. It's just not a super consistent one. Still, for now, our Ninetales is progressing, and these next two trainers can do nothing to us. We're going to make our way down to rival number 3, who is still basically rocking a team where only Spearow can damage a ghost type. So this should not be a terribly difficult section, but we're going to have to see how we do against Surgy Boy. Maybe the Trash Man has something to say about our ghost, at least if the last run is anything to go by. First up though, Rival 3, attempt number 1. He leads off with the Spearow. I'm just going to go for Ember here and get the one-hit KO. Rattata comes out next. It can just get wrecked. Now the Sandshrew cannot actually damage us. We're just worried about the sand attacks here. And that brings out the Eevee. I'm on low PP on my damaging moves, and it uses sand attack, which is not what I wanted to see. I was trying to put it to sleep so that we could hopefully damage it before that. Still, it cannot damage us, and we've got it on fairly low health. He does use a potion though, and we're going to have to just use up the rest of our PP. Fortunately, we confuse it and it knocks itself out in confusion. So we do manage to beat the rival without having to go to struggle, which is good. But now we have to decide what we're going to do after this. And now that we've gotten access to Cut, we can actually get a better move with this Pokemon. We're fast enough that I think we're generally going to outspeed things throughout the run. So I think one of the best plays that we can go for is to use the move Dream Eater, because if we can put things to sleep and then Dream Eater them, we'll be able to recover HP in battle, as well as the fact that it is a special move. So we can just use Cut to get back to Viridian City here, chop down this tree, and come talk to this guy about Dream Eater. And I'm just going to slap this onto my Ninetales immediately. I'm going to forget the move Confuse Ray here. This might be a mistake, but I think we can go with Hypnosis Dream Eater. I'll keep Nightshade in case we need neutral damage somewhere. And let's just see how this works out. Of course, that Nightshade can be replaced later on with something like Solar Beam, since I mentioned that will be a strat in the late game. So yeah, this might be the best way to progress in this challenge. Still, with that done, let's get straight to the Trash Man and see if we can eat his dreams. So Surge attempt number 1, I'm just going to go straight for Hypnosis as he just X speeds there. Then he tries to Mega Punch. So only Thunderbolt can actually hit us. We are 2-hit KO'd here by Thunderbolt though, so we lose the first attempt. But I think once we manage to get him to sleep, we're going to have pretty good odds of getting through this one. Next attempt, he goes Thunderbolt first, then he goes Mega Kick, allowing us to finally put him to sleep. We'll go Dream Eater here, and it didn't do as much damage as I would have hoped. Only about 18 damage here. This is going to be a 5-hit KO with the Dream Eater, so we are going to have to keep him asleep. The X speed helps because he can't wake up that turn, and it looks like we might actually get the 4-hitter thanks to damage ranges. So we managed to win on the second attempt and get to level 24. So 24 minutes, 55 seconds to get through that. We're up to 5 resets so far, but still on minimum battles. Really not too bad. And now we can progress through the rock tunnel and make our way to Celadon, where normally we would already have a type advantage being a fire type, but we're really going to have an advantage being a fire ghost type, because even when Erica decides to start dropping acid, we're not actually going to be damaged that much by that move. So first up, we have to take on the Wrapping Glass, of course. She shouldn't be a major issue for us. I think Ember's going to do enough damage, but it's not one-hit KOing here, so we're actually going to have to land 2 Embers on these Pokemon to knock them out. We get poisoned by Poison Powder, which is kind of bad. We should still be able to get through this just fine. It's just going to be a little more tedious. Sure enough, she goes down on the first attempt. And honestly, we probably don't even need to heal before we go to the Bug Catcher, since he also has a weakness to fire. So we can just heal up here and then make our way into the Rock Tunnel. Now, Rock Tunnel's actually going to have a few challenges for us, because first up, we've got these Pokemaniacs that have Cubone and Slowpoke, 2 Pokemon that we don't have any really strong moves against. Bone Club did about a third here, so we're going to have to put this Cubone to sleep. I'm going to go Dream Eater after that to recover some HP, and then we can just Nightshade it down from there. That brings out the Slowpoke, and this is the main reason why we really want to have the move Nightshade still on our moveset, because we have no moves that are actually good against these Slowpokes otherwise. Still, once we manage to keep it asleep, it's a 4-hit KO with Nightshade, and we can easily get through that first Pokemaniac. The next one only has the Slowpoke, so really not too bad. And then we're basically on to the self-destruct Hiker. So we have made it to the Rock Tunnel Hiker. He is the midpoint in a minimum battles run. We have completed half of the required battles in the game. I'm just trying to put these Pokemon to sleep because of Rock Throw. It's not super accurate, but I just don't want to get hit by it. And we can also use the move Dream Eater to recover off of them, which I think is the best strategy. Still, if they don't cooperate, they can just self-destruct and allow us to win that way. So we get through easily as he just booms with the second 2 Pokemon, and it's time to make our way out of this section and onward to Celadon City. I'm going to take on Erica immediately because obviously she's got a type weakness to us, but that might be our last really easy gym for a while, so we'll just have to see how it works out. So I'm sure that there are some people down in the comments also saying that we should test out an Alolan Ninetales as well, but we'll save that for a future video, so there's not going to be any ice type moves in this one, but it's definitely something I'll keep in mind for the future. But for now, we're just going to make our way into Erica's gym, where the trainer before Erica can literally do nothing, so we just destroy it. And it's time now for Erica herself. So Erica attempt number 1, she leads off with the Tangela, which doesn't have any good moves against us. It's just using normal and grass type moves. Still, I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep just because I want to avoid any extra damage as much as possible before we get to the next 2 Pokemon. Even Mega Drain did 16 damage here, although it was resisted. So I think it's a good decision to actually put this Pokemon to sleep. We can Dream Eater just to get some HP back, and then we can really go anything, but because this Pokemon has fairly high defensive stats, I think we should go Nightshade to just knock it out in a couple more hits. We get to level 28. We could relearn Confuse Ray here. I'm going to skip the move though. I don't think we need it. Let's instead go up against this Weepinbell, where the best decision I think is to put it to sleep and go for the Dream Eater. She paralyzes us and then goes into Acid and Razor Leaf. Still, we managed to get it to sleep after that, and we can one-shot healing up to full health. That brings out Gloom, it drops Acid, and then goes for the Petal Dance. We finally get it to sleep though, and we can hopefully Dream Eater this Pokemon. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but from this range, I think we can just go back into Ember, and it's going to take 2 more hits to knock it out, but it is enough. We get through getting to level 29 there on Erica. 35 minutes, 9 seconds to get through this one with no resets since Lieutenant Surge. So pretty nice. But that might be pretty close to the end of our easy session here. I will go ahead and just beat up everything in the rocket hideout that's required and make my way over to rival number 4, who will have some Pokemon that can actually damage us. But after that, we're going to have to decide whether to go to Koga or rival number 5. Honestly, Koga might be easier since he won't use Sleep Powder or Toxic on us due to what he perceives as type resistances. But still, we're going to have to see how that one actually goes. Then Blaine might just get us because he has such a huge level advantage on us. We might be able to cheese the Sabrina fight, but then I'm really worried about the Giovanni fight, which might be completely impossible without just god tier luck. We're just going to have to see how it goes, but for now, rocket hideout time. Let's make our way downstairs to Jesse and James and Giovanni and just stunt on them for a minute with a real ghost Pokemon. So Jesse and James time, they shouldn't be able to do much damage to us, but let's just see how they actually go. I'm going to try to put the coughing to sleep just so I can heal off of it with Dream Eater. And we're out of PP in Hypnosis now, so we're just going to have to go all in on attack. Fortunately, the Meowth is only going to take a couple hits to knock out. We can just Ember it down from there. We get to level 30 as the Ekans comes out, and this is looking to be a 2-hit KO as well. So we get through nice and fine. We can now move on to Giovanni after just quickly recovering some PP. So Giovanni, number 1, attempt 1, he's going to lead off with the Onix that does know the move Rock Throw. That's the only reason I'm trying to put it to sleep, because Rock Throw is doing very good damage. We'll just Dream Eater it down from there. It's a 1-hit KO. The Rhyhorn can do nothing, so let's just get some free HP off of it. We just proceed to miss like all of the Hypnosis though. Still, we get through, and now when we get to the Persian, we don't have any threats here, so we'll just go all in on Nightshade to knock this one out. It's a nice, easy victory. Now Now, theoretically, Giovanni was the first trainer that could actually see our Pokemon, given the fact that he had the Sylph Scope, but even then, it wasn't enough for him to actually get through this. Still, the fact that he's smart enough to actually use the Sylph Scope and see our Pokemon means that he's going to formulate a better strategy by the end of the game when we get to Viridian Gym, so I'm feeling a little bit nervous about that one. But for now, we get the super easy victory, and we can move on now to Rival 4, and let's just see how he likes the ghosts here in Lavender Town. Now, the first Fearow actually cannot damage a ghost type Pokemon. It will only use Mirror Move over and over again. So I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep because as long as it's asleep, it won't be able to Mirror Move any of our moves anyway. And we can just pretty easily knock it out in 2 hits. From there, we get to level 31. Magnemite comes out. Sonic Boom can hit ghosts in Gen 1. All fixed damage moves effectively ignore type resistance in this generation. So we're going to put this one to sleep as well and just get a 2-hit KO after that with Dream Eater. Shellder will only use Withdraw here, so it's a free Pokemon. We can just go for the Nightshade twice. The Sandshrew does no Sand Attack, so it goes to sleep here, and then we just one-shot it with a Dream Eater. And Eevee also knows the Sand Attack, so I'm just going to put it to sleep and take advantage of the ability to just Dream Eater it down from there. So just like that, we get a nice, easy victory against the rival, and we can now move on through this section where we've got more than enough moves for the ghosts, so I think we're going to be perfectly fine. But let's make our way up to Ghosty Mama and see how she goes, since she is a ground-type Pokemon. And as Ghost Tails makes its way through here, all of these Ghastlies are just thinking that they really wish that they could be this Ninetales when they grow up. But for now, we have gotten through all of them, and it's time for Ghosty Mama herself. The ghost that is not a ghost type, unfortunately. Still, we can just put her to sleep. Now I'm going to go for the Dream Eater. It's looking to be a 2-hit KO with that move, but after 1 Dream Eater, we can just Nightshade her down, and we get a nice, easy victory. So let's come up to the top of the tower and show Jesse and James a ghost so that they can go running scared back to Giovanni after this. The Meowth is a 1-hit KO with Dream Eater. We put the Arbok to sleep as well, since Dream Eater is our strongest move here, and we'll just do the same to the Weezing. It's not like we're scared of anything from this Pokemon anyway, but Dream Eater just one-shots as we get to level 33. So we have saved Mr. Fuji with the power of our Ghost Tails, and now we can get the Pokeflute from him. But here we need to make a decision. Rival number 5 or go down to Koga. I'm going to try to go down to Koga in spite of the fact that everything there can use Psychic type moves that can affect us, because at least nothing is super effective down here, and hopefully that will allow us to find a way through. Of course, if we can outspeed against the Venonats, which we certainly will at this point, and land the Hypnosis, we should be able to get to the final Venomoth on full health most of the time. So then it just becomes a question of how much damage the Psychic from Venomoth deals to us, because it's not going to use anything else against us. It knows that Leech Life is resisted. It's going to view Toxic as being resisted as well, and obviously Double Team is a normal type move, so it's not going to want to use that. Basically just going to spam Psychic, I think. So we're going to have to see how that goes, but first we've got to get through these random jugglers. Let's see if they pose any trouble or if we can just get to the gym leader nice and quick. We actually just barely survive against the second of the jugglers due to the fact that he knows Psychic and he managed to poison me. Still, we did get through, so we can just pop out of here to heal up really quickly, and then we can take on Koga himself, and let's just see how he goes. We're going to outspeed everything except the final Venomoth, so it's probably just going to come down to sleep luck and whether or not the Pokemon stay asleep so that we can use Dream Eater on them. But I think we're going to be able to win this one. Let's just find out though. So Koga attempt number 1. On the first Venonat, it's only going to use the move Psychic against us because it thinks all of its other moves are resisted. Still, we managed to put it to sleep. We can go Dream Eater here since it's the strongest move, but it's going to be a 2-hit KO, so I'm just going to Ember it down from there. Second Venonat comes out, it will go Psybeam or Psychic on us. When we miss, it goes Psybeam here, Psybeam again. Finally, we get it to sleep, but it immediately wakes up. We get it to sleep a 3rd time after taking a Psychic, and now we can Dream Eater to recover some HP, and we're almost back to full HP after we knock that one out. In fact, we get to full HP as we level up here, and we get to learn the move Flamethrower. That will allow us to deal damage independent of whether or not the opponent's asleep and do a lot more than what Ember was doing. So I'm going to learn this move, of course, over Ember, and we make it to the final Venonat. We put it to sleep just to be safe, but now let's just go for the flamethrower, and that's a one-hit KO. We have made it to Venomoth that has 103 speed versus our 81 speed, and it also has a much higher special stat at 103. So this is the one I'm most worried about. It goes Psychic, dealing nearly half and getting a special drop on us. I'm going to give him a flamethrower, but because of the special drop, we didn't do that much. Still, he used a couple of X attacks. I'm going to go all in on the flamethrower here as he stays asleep. And just like that, we managed to beat him on the first attempt in spite of the special drop. 48 minutes, 45 seconds to defeat Koga. And that gives us the badge boost in speed with no additional resets. So that was definitely a good fight for us. Probably a little bit lucky if I'm being honest, but hey, we will take it. And now we get that badge boost in speed, so we have a way to actually be faster than opponents. That could be all that we actually need. So I'm gonna just give a quick think here. Do we want to go to Blaine or do we want to go to the rival at this point? The argument for going to Blaine is that, of course, we resist his moves because he's only using normal and fire type moves there. The problem is that he's got a significant level and speed advantage on us. He does attack randomly in this version of the game, so there is a chance of getting like Growl or Tail Whip in order to boost our speed, but I'm not sure if our special moves are gonna deal enough damage. So on that basis, I'm at least gonna try the rival one time, and let's just see how he actually goes. So after dispatching the one required rocket in here and getting the card key, we'll make our way to Rival 5's room. And strategically speaking, I think we have to basically put everything to sleep. The first Sand Slash is actually pretty easy because it can only affect us with Poison Sting in this battle, but the next three Pokemon could do significant damage. So I think it's going to come down to sleep strats, and then we'll just have to see how we do against the Flareon at the end. So Rival 5 attempt number 1. I'm still going to put the Sand Slash to sleep just to avoid a lucky poison from Poison Sting, but now we can go into Flamethrower and just 2-hit KO that Pokemon. Now Cloyster is the Pokemon that has a type advantage on us, and it goes Clamp when we miss the Hypnosis, and 4 hits is enough to knock us out on the first attempt. Still, we're faster, so if we just manage the sleep there, we should be able to get through that one. So I think this is worth sitting and resetting on. Back to Cloyster on the next attempt. It goes Withdraw when we miss the first Hypnosis. It's going to be a 1 in 2 chance to do that. It wakes up from the first Hypnosis, but we put it back to sleep. Now we'll go for Flamethrower here, and it will be a 2-hit KO with this move. Magneton's out next. I don't want to get paralyzed, so I'm going to put it to sleep. We can go Dream Eater here to recover a little bit of HP. We can see Thundershock with a critical hit did 40 damage here, so it's not like this is an easy Pokemon to get through. And we've got the Kadabra coming up next, and he's just critting with all of his Thundershocks here. So we're just taking massive damage from this Magneton, but we do manage to knock it out with 30 HP remaining as we go to the Kadabra, and we level up here to level 37. We are faster than this Pokemon, so we can put it to sleep. Now I'm going to go for Flamethrower since it's our strongest move. A critical hit, nearly 1-hit KOs. It just survives with 3 HP. We knock it out on the next turn. We're to the Flareon. We put it to sleep. Now I'm going Dream Eater to recover some HP, but Dream Eater only did 25 damage here. So Nightshade is significantly stronger than Dream Eater in this fight. So I'm just going to use Nightshade the rest of the way to knock him out. And we managed to beat the rival on the second attempt. So really not too bad. It's definitely worth sitting there and resetting, but it's not going to be a consistent fight, especially if you don't get that Cloyster to sleep. You're going to be in some trouble. Still, we managed to get it to go. We can now fight Jesse and James, who have no answer for this Pokemon. So let's just stunt on them for a minute and maybe heal up before we take on Giovanni. Sure enough, that fight was a joke, and it's time for the final trainer in Silphco, Giovanni himself, who yet again can't really affect us with anything. Like, he's got a Nidorino that can use Poison Sting, and it does poison us here, but once we get it to sleep, we'll just Dream Eater in order to knock it out and recover our HP. Persian can't damage us. We'll just go for the Flamethrower and 2-hit KO there. Rhyhorn does resist fire, so I'm going to put it to sleep and now Dream Eater it from there, allowing us to get back to full health by the end of this one. And that brings us to the Nidoqueen, who can't do anything other than Poison Sting here as well, but we're going to put her to sleep and then just Dream Eater her down. It's going to take 2 Dream Eaters to take that one out, but still he just guard specs. So we get an easy victory as we get to level 39, and Silphco is completed on minimum battles. Now, to be clear, I'm sure you could probably find a way to get this far in the game with a normal Ninetales, but I'm not sure how it would be doing on minimum battles at this point. Consider that if you didn't use things like double team and substitute, which would be completely broken, your strongest attacking move here would probably be something like hyper beam or takedown. Like, you wouldn't have that many good options with this Pokemon at this point, because normally a Ninetales doesn't learn level up moves, so it wouldn't get flamethrower. Your strongest same type move would just be Ember up until this point in the game. And I mean, I guess you could be using Dig, but would that be enough to get you through that Cloyster? I'm honestly not sure that that would work out. So I think we can logically say that we're way better than a normal Ninetales would be up to this point in the run. And now I'm gonna just go ahead and try my hand at Sabrina, since I think that we can probably manage to beat her, but we're gonna have to think about our strategy for a minute here. In fact, this is the point where I think I'm going to forget the move Nightshade finally to learn a physical damaging move, but it's not going to be Dig at this point. Instead, I'm going to slap on the move Swift. Swift is the easiest way to exploit the Sabrina fight in Pokemon Yellow, so let's just get into this and see how it actually works out. So the strategy here is pretty simple. I'm actually just going to spam the move Dream Eater against the Abra as many times as I can until it lowers my accuracy all the way, because we are getting badge boosts in attack every time that it uses the move Flash on us. And once she's flashed us enough, we're all the way up to 162 attack. We can go for Swift here. It's going to be a two-hitter here because she used an X defend, but now we're also faster than Kadabra. We can just use Swift. The critical hit was the problem. Otherwise, I think we would have one-shot there. And now against Alakazam, we are faster thanks to the badge boosts. And this looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO with Swift. She goes Reflect, which is kind of bad. And then she goes for the Psywave that did decent damage. Plus, she's recovering. So I'm going to try to put this Pokemon to sleep. And we're just missing all of the Hypnosises here. We finally managed to hit, though, only to find that she's set up both Reflect and X defend here. So it takes a critical hit to do decent damage. I'm going to switch to Flamethrower in this case. The problem with that, though, is that our accuracy's been lowered so much that Flamethrower is unlikely to hit, and she's going to knock us out on that first attempt. The fact that we don't have a great attack stat is really what's hurting us here. Otherwise, this would be a pretty easy victory. Still, now that we know that, I'm going to just try to put the Alakazam to sleep first to stop it from using Reflect if possible, and that may give us a better shot of actually getting through this. So back to Alakazam this time. I do manage to get it to sleep. She did use an X defend, but that's not really the end of the world. And we're going to 4-hit KO here with Swift. She wakes up, but we just knock her out on the next hit. So it takes 2 attempts to get through Sabrina there. An hour, 1 minute, 29 seconds to get through the 6th gym. So as exploitative as you can be using Swift there against Sabrina, the fact that it is only a 60 base power move and we don't have a great attack stat does make that strategy less effective than it normally would be. Of course, if you have an attack boosting move like Swords Dance, you can stack it with the badge boost there in order to really just one-hit KO everything. So if you're running like a Charmander even, it's a perfectly good strategy. But with this Ninetales, the fact that we don't have great attack really was our Achilles heel. Still, we managed to get through, and now the only trainer available on minimum battles is to go ahead and fight against Blaine. Let's see if we can get his badge nice and easy here without taking any optional battles. I think it's going to be possible to get through. We might need a Tail Whip in order to outspeed against his entire team, which at least there's going to be decent odds of that from his first 2 Pokemon getting either a Tail Whip or a Growl. So that's what I'm going to hope for as we go into this one. Of course, if we got access to Tombstoner, we would one-shot every single Pokemon for the rest of the game. Plus, Tombstoner gives you permanent red bars so that you would get a perfect speed run. Still, we're just going to have to go in with our Ghost Tails as we are right now. Let's see how this works. So Blaine attempt number 1. We are just a couple points in speed slower than his Ninetales, though we're 8 levels lower. He goes Flamethrower, and it didn't do that much, fortunately, so I'm going to put this one to sleep. And it turns out that his Ninetales is actually being affected by the fact that we changed the starting moveset and level up moveset of Ninetales here. So he's ending up with 2 Flamethrowers, Roar and Confuse Ray. So I'm going to take a reset here so that I can fix that really quickly. So there we go. We have corrected his moveset to be Flamethrower, Confuse Ray, Tail Whip, and Quick Attack. And he's just going to attack randomly here. He Confuse Rays us turn 1, but we put him to sleep. Now we can really do anything, but I'm going to go for the Dream Eater here since we're likely to hit ourselves in confusion and deal some damage to ourselves. And we can see that we're really not doing that much. Now, fortunately, we can time out when he wakes up and use that to our advantage. And it looks like Dream Eater might be a 4 or 5 hit KO here. We get it down to very low health and get a critical hit to one-shot it from there. So we get through the first Pokemon. That brings out the Rapidash, which can only affect us with Fire Spin. Still, I'm going to put it to sleep and try to go for Dream Eater here, at least to get it on lower health. But then we might want to intentionally try to get a Growl. Unfortunately, we got a critical hit and knocked it out. That brings out the Arcanine, which can only affect us with its Fire-type moves, though it can go Reflect and Take Down as well. Fire Blast, fortunately, is resisted, though, so it only did about a third to us. And once we get to sleep, we can go into our own Dream Eaters here, recovering a little bit of HP. This looks like a 6-hit KO on this Pokemon, but if it just stays asleep long enough, we should be able to get the victory. I'm just going to go all in on attack here, and we've got it on very low health. He doesn't use a Super Potion, and we managed to knock him out on the first attempt. So yeah, Blaine really wasn't that bad. I took one reset there, but that was just because I had to correct the moveset on the enemy Ninetales since it used Roar turn 1. That wouldn't have been legit. So an hour, 9 minutes, 2 seconds to get through 7 gyms. And honestly, we can knock one of those resets off. Technically, we've only got 7 resets so far. I'll get that corrected in the overlay. We're really not doing too bad. So there, with that corrected, we can see our score has updated properly. We've used 2 TMs and we have 7 resets. So a score of 97.3. We're definitely still in top tier territory in spite of the fact that we're running on minimum battles, but that might come to a screeching halt here on Giovanni. We're going to be faster than everything except for the Doug Trio, but the Doug Trio only knows ground type moves. We're gonna really be hoping that it goes for Fissure or that he uses a guard spec. Still, the 2 trainers that we have to fight before Giovanni pose no threat to us, so we can just easily get through them. And let's try our hand at the gym leader. Now, at level 42, we get to learn Fire Spin. Now, I usually would skip this move because it's not terribly strong, but it might actually have some value. I'm going to forget Swift in order to learn Fire Spin here, because if we can outspeed things and we're not one-shotting, we may be able to use Fire Spin plus Hypnosis to get them into a range to knock them out. So that's going to be my kind of YOLO strat if nothing else works. At least Fire Spin is a same type move, so it will deal some decent damage. Plus, we've got decent special, so I think it's not the most terrible strategy at least, but it might not be pretty as we go through this one. So Giovanni, attempt number 1. Let's see if he's beatable or not. He leads off with the Doug Trio, which has 133 speed. So really, like I said, we're hoping for a Fissure Miss, maybe Sand Attack, though that's not really great. Otherwise, we want the guard spec. He digs, and then Dig just one-shots us from full health. I'm pretty sure that's not a range either. I'm pretty sure Earthquake or Dig, both 100 base power and super effective, are just going to wreck us here. So this is going to take quite a few resets just to even get a chance against this Doug Trio. And the difference in speed is big enough that I don't think we could just go all in on rare candies to outspeed here. Now, if you're the type that uses vitamins, you could slam a bunch of Carbos. I'm not going to go that route though. The other thing to remember is that we are on 0 DVs, so if you were on max DVs, you could probably use rare candies to outspeed, and that would probably be the correct strat here. Still, I'm just going to reset for that 1 in 4 chance that he uses the move Fissure, plus the 70% chance that the move misses. Here he misses the Fissure finally on attempt number 8. So we will be able to put this Pokemon to sleep and then Dream Eater here. But I'm going to Flamethrower it down from there. Persian, of course, can do nothing. So this is just a free Pokemon. But if the Doug Trio was one-shotting us with Earthquake, I think everything else will too. So I'm pretty sure we have to go for sleep here for the rest of the team. And sure enough, we just get one shot when we miss by the Nidoqueen. So this is not looking good at all, and I'm not sure that we have a strategy that can get through here. Still, there are 10 rare candies available, so let's just see if somehow we can manage to get into a speed tie or something there. I'm just not too confident that it's actually going to work out. So in order to get one more rare candy, I am coming to the power plant very quickly. We'll just grab the items that we need from here, including the max elixir and the PP up as well. But this will give us 10 rare candies that will leave only one available for the league if we slam them all here. But for the sake of not taking a massive number of resets to get through Giovanni, this might just be the best strategy that we've got. But in fact, by using all 10 rare candies to get to level 52, we do now outspeed against the Doug trio. And that might massively impact this battle. Not only because all of our stats are better, so we might be survivable enough to get through something, but also because of the fact that we now have the direct speed advantage on the entire team. Let's see if this can work out or not. So here we outspeed Doug Trio and put it to sleep turn 1. Let's just go for the flamethrower. It's still not quite a one-hit KO. So putting this Pokemon to sleep is the correct play. We even get a Gen 1 miss from flamethrower. Thanks game. Now Persian can do nothing, but we get a nice badge boost there from a Screech. So that might actually help our ranges for the rest of the fight. Still, Nidoqueen has a lot of special and defense, so I don't think we're going to one-shot there with flamethrower. So I'm going to stick with trying to put that Pokemon to sleep as we get their first reset after coming back. Still, this looks a lot more reasonable than it was looking before, so I think we're just fishing for a little bit of luck here. In fact, we can survive an Earthquake without a Screech here against the Nidoqueen. I'm going to put it to sleep and now go Dream Eater to recover HP. When she wakes up, we'll just use Flamethrower to take her down. That brings us to the Nidoking, which also goes to sleep, so we can use Dream Eater. We're back to nearly full health as we go to the final Rhydon here, but Earthquake and Rock Slide are still going to completely wreck us, so we have to put this Pokemon to sleep. And thanks to its low special stat, we can go Dream Eater. This looks like a 2-hit KO, but it wakes up. We put it back to sleep as he guard specs, and he wakes up again, but he's on low health, so Flamethrower ends it. We managed to beat Giovanni in just 2 resets after coming back using the rare candies, but you need exactly 10 of them. All of the available rare candies up to this point on minimum battles to get through that with a 0 DV's Ninetales if you're not going to slam a bunch of Carbos here. Carbos probably could get the job done though, so that's probably the simpler strat if you like to use vitamins, but I'm avoiding them as much as possible. But hey, rare candies get the job done just barely. An hour, 17 minutes, 21 seconds to get through that gym, and with all 8 gyms done, we're now ready to move on to the league. We've got to take on our rival first though, so let's just go take him on nice and quick. We shouldn't have any issues with the first 2 Pokemon. The Sandslash still doesn't know Earthquake at this point, and the Execute is weak against Flamethrower, so it should just go down. So I think this really comes down to the Cloyster and the Kadabra mostly, and of course if we get paralyzed by the Magneton, that could just be the end of this one, but let's see. So rival number 6, attempt 1. Let's go Flamethrower on the Sandslash. We get a 1-hit KO there with a crit. Flamethrower destroys the Execute. Now to the Cloyster. I'm going to try to put this Pokemon to sleep. He withdraws twice as we miss, 3 times even. He misses a Clamp and we finally get it to sleep, only for it to immediately wake up. And he's not going to miss Clamp anymore. Still, he only hit twice, though it was a critical hit. I'm going to have to Dream Eater to recover some HP here, but we do get a 2-hitter with Dream Eater there even. Now we'll put the Magneton to sleep to just keep healing up. Of course, if this were Gen 2 onward, we would love to use Flamethrower here, but I think it's good to just get the health recovery. Now we're faster than Kadabra and put it to sleep. We can go Flamethrower and get a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. We get to level 54 as the Flareon comes out. We put it to sleep. Dream Eater looks to be maybe a 3 or 4 hit KO. Still, it just stays asleep the whole time. So even on low health, we can just use a Flamethrower to knock it out, and good enough. We get through the rival on the first attempt and we're on to the league. That was really lucky though. We missed a ton of Hypnosis on that Cloyster and it just kept using Withdraw or missing Clamp. And when it did finally hit, it only got a 2-hitter. If it had gotten a 3-hitter, granted it was a critical hit Clamp, so it was doing more damage. But even then, like a 3-hitter with a crit or a 4-hitter or 5-hitter 5-hitter without a crit would have definitely ended us. So definitely lucky to get through that, but we'll take it. And we're on now to Lorelei, who might be one of the toughest trainers in the entire game for this Pokemon. Before I take her on, I'm going to get access to some other TMs that might be useful in a pinch. That of course includes Mimic. We could go for the Mimic strat if we get to the Slowbro to mimic Amnesia, though I do count that as an OPTM, so I'm not going to use that unless I absolutely have to. Most of her team is at least neutrally affected by fire, so I think it's going to be okay, though we don't really have anything good for that Slowbro. That's the biggest issue in this fight. So coming back with just a ton of TMs added to our bag, we still have Dig available to us, as well as Solar Beam, which could be a strategy here on Lorelei. So I'm going to keep that in mind. We also haven't learned Fire Blast yet. We've picked up things like Reflect and Takedown to have other moves if we need them. I decided to skip Hyper Beam here because of the fact that I don't think it's going to be that useful. What I think is more useful is in OPTM is going to be TM50 Substitute. Since we have Sleep and Dream Eater, Substitute becomes relatively OP here. And we've also got Mimic. I've got the Double Team TM, but I'm really not going to try to use it unless literally nothing else works. Let's just see how this actually goes, starting with Lorelei, where for this one, I'm actually going to replace the move Fire Spin with the move Solar Beam that we made available, since it is available for this Pokemon from Gen 4 onward via TM. Let's just throw that on over Fire Spin, because now we could put opponents to sleep and then try to use Solar Beam on them to knock them out. This might be the best play. So Lorelei attempt number 1. On the Dugong, I'm going to try to put it to sleep. She goes Bubble Beam turn 1 and does massive damage. Still, once we get it to sleep, I'm going to now Dream Eater to try to recover some HP off of this. She Super Potions at that point, and I'm just going to use Solar Beam to knock the Dugong out, but we did get back to full health, so that's perfectly fine. We managed to get Cloyster to sleep as well. Let's just see what Solar Beam does here. It does one-hit KO. That brings out the Slowbro. We put it to sleep. As long as it stays asleep, we can go Solar Beam, and that is another one-hitter with a crit. Now we get to Jinx, who's weak to fire, so we can just go Flamethrower. It does not get the one-hitter, but she can't really do that much. She only knows Ice Punch, so we can just knock her out on the next turn. Now for the Lapras, this is where the Ghost Fire type actually helps us a little bit. Normally, against a Fire type, she would only use Hydro Pump 100% of the time because she views that as super effective, but the Ghost type actually causes her to think that Confuse Ray is super effective against us as well, so it's a 50-50 shot to get those two moves. Still, we managed to put Lapras to sleep. I'm going to try Flamethrower since it's neutrally effective. It didn't do that much. Let's go for a Dream Eater in order to recover some HP, then put it back to sleep when it wakes up. I'm going to try the Solar Beam here, and that is enough to win. So we get through Lorelei on the first attempt. Now we can go fight a Hiker who normally can't even affect ghosts, so let's just see how this goes. Now, as much as we stunt on Bruno, he did teach the move Dig to his Onix here, as well as Rock Slide, so it does have a couple of decent moves. We'll just put it to sleep though, and Dream Eater, and that's a one-hit KO gaining us to full health. We can put the Hitmonchan to sleep and just do the exact same thing. Now the Hitmonlee can't even affect a ghost, so we'll just go for the Flamethrower. A critical hit just one-shots. Here, let's go Solar Beam on this Onix, because it used Rock Slide, but it really didn't do any damage, and we one-shot. And now the final Machamp can't affect a ghost, so we can just go for Flamethrower twice, easily knocking it out, and Bruno goes down on the first attempt. That was obvious though. We knew we were going to win that fight, but now the question is, how are we going to do against Agatha? We know that she's going to be very random. We have a couple strategies that we can use if we run into a wall here. Specifically, you can use Substitute in order to avoid all of her confusion and toxic spam, as well as preventing her from paralyzing you with Lick. Or we could add on Dig, which would allow us to have a super effective physical move against the ghosts. I'm going to go in as I am though and just see how this works out first, and we'll only change our moveset if it seems absolutely necessary. So So while sharing ghost stories with Agatha, we're going to show her our ghost tales and go for Hypnosis on the first Gengar. We are faster than this Pokemon, and we can go for Dream Eater after that. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. Let's see what Flamethrower does. It does knock that Pokemon out. Out next comes the Golbat. We'll just put it to sleep, and Dream Eater also almost getting the 1-hit KO, and then Flamethrower will end it. Haunter comes out next. We land Sleep again. So once again, we're going to knock out this Pokemon pretty quick. She swaps to Arbok, which is actually a pretty decent strategy. I'm going to just Flamethrower on this one since it can't really do that much anyway. We'll Flamethrower to knock out the Haunter. That brings us to the final Gengar, which is slower than us because we've already burned all the rare candies. It tries to go Dream Eater while we're awake. We put it to sleep so we can show it how Dream Eater actually works. And this looks like it's going to be a 2-hit KO as we put her back to sleep. And sure enough, we get the 2-hitter after she sleeps again with Dream Eater. Agatha turned out to be a non-factor, partially due to really good sleep luck, but partially due to the fact that she, in spite of the fact that she's in the Elite Four, clearly doesn't know how to use her own best move. So with that, we have made it to Lance, and this is the other spot where fire types usually just hit a wall. They get to Lance, and all of his Pokemon resist fire, and usually the only coverage that fire types typically have is a move like Dig, which can't affect all of his flying types, so you just end up in a tough spot. Here, however, we've got at least a couple moves to use, including the neutrally effective Dream Eater. So let's just see how this works against Lancey Boy and if we can manage to get the victory. So Lance attempt number 1 up against the Gyarados. It's only going to want to use the move Hydro Pump here, but we put it to sleep first. Now we can go Dream Eater and see what damage we do. A critical hit took it down to about half health. So this is probably a 4-hit KO normally. It wakes up, but we put it back to sleep. I'm just going to Dream Eater it down from here, and we managed to get another crit. So that's an easy victory. The first Dragonair comes out. It does know the move Thunder Wave, which we really don't want to see. So I'm just going to put it to sleep here to avoid that move. He Hyper Potions after the first Dream Eater, but we can knock him out with 2 more. Second Dragonair comes out, and this one knows Bubble Beam, which can lower our speed, which is really bad. We're now slower than the Dragonites. Still, we're going to be able to knock this one out and recover our HP. We get to level 58 as the Aerodactyl comes out, and we would always be slower than this Pokemon. It has 170 speed. We were at like 150 coming into this. Still, it just wing attacks, which is perfectly fine. We can use Dream Eater to recover some HP. It stays asleep, and now Flamethrower will end it because he didn't go for the Hyper Potion. That brings out the final Dragonite. Normally we'd be faster, but unfortunately due to the speed drop, we are slower here, but we get it to sleep. And now we're going for Dream Eater since it's our only neutrally effective move. And this looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO. He does not go for the Hyper Potion again, so we managed to knock him out on the first attempt. Are you kidding me? Oh, that is an epic Lance punt. Like, usually he's supposed to use a Hyper Potion when he's on low health. In fact, I just went and looked it up just to double check. When he's below 1/5 health, he's set to use a Hyper Potion 50% of the time. So to get both of those last 2 Pokemon not using the Hyper Potion on low health is insanely lucky, but we'll take it. We're on now to the champion. We have 1 rare candy in the bag, so we can get to level 59 here. I'm not sure if there's any reason why we wouldn't want to use the rare candy here, because he doesn't really use a whole lot of badge boosting moves against the player. So I think I'm just going to burn it, and let's see how this goes. We get to level 59 coming into this, and this is the first time that his Sandslash does know the move Earthquake, which could be an issue, but we are faster, so maybe it works out. Let's see. So champion attempt number 1 against the Sandslash. We use Hypnosis to put it to sleep. Now I'm going Solar Beam, and that is a 1-hit KO on that Pokemon. Now we have a problem. I did not recover PP coming into this, and Alakazam is doing massive damage. A critical hit Psychic knocks me out. Let's correct the fact that we didn't recover our PP and try this one again. So attempt number 2, we once again get Sandslash to sleep, and as long as it stays asleep, it's a one-hit KO with the Solar Beam. Now we are slightly slower than the Alakazam. It hits Kinesis on us, lowering our special, and a critical hit Psychic takes us down to 8 HP remaining. It hits another Kinesis, so we're just going to lose that attempt as well. Honestly, Alakazam might be the biggest wall here, with Cloyster being the second biggest wall though, so if we can just find a way through those 2 Pokemon, we should have a victory here. Another Kinesis from Alakazam, but this time we do get it to sleep. Flamethrower with a crit does like 80%, and we managed to knock him out the next turn. Exeggutor, Flamethrower with a critical hit one-shots. That brings out the Magneton. I'm just going to go all in on attack, but we missed, and it managed to paralyze me. I'm fully paralyzed as it uses Thunderbolt to knock me out. Still, I think that's just going to require a little bit better luck, and hopefully we can get one of these runs where we do not get the Kinesis. That's what I think we really need to get through this. So this time we get Psychic from the Alakazam. Fortunately, no special drop. We'll go back to the Flamethrower, which is a 3-hit KO normally, but we get a crit, so we managed to knock that one out. We'll go back to Flamethrower on the Exeggutor, but this Pokemon really can't damage us with anything. Like, it's only going to go Hypnosis here, so we can just 2-shot that Pokemon even when we don't get the one-hitter. Now against the Magneton, it goes Thunderbolt, but we get it to sleep the next turn. Now we can go into Dream Eater to recover HP. It wakes up, but we put it back to sleep, back to Dream Eater. It just keeps waking up. I'm going to try to Flamethrower it down. It does work. We get to Cloyster. It goes to sleep. I'm going to charge up the Solar Beam here, and that gets the one-hit KO. Now we are to the final Flareon at level 60. It goes Reflect, and I'm pretty sure it's only going to use Reflect over and over again. Note the fact that because its attacking moves are Fire Spin, Reflect, Quick Attack, and Flamethrower, it deprioritizes Fire Spin and Flamethrower because we're Fire type, and because we're Ghost type, it doesn't want to use Quick Attack, so it's only going to use the move Reflect here. So I'm just going to go into the Flamethrowers against the champion. Are you kidding me? He just punts at the end. We get a critical hit to knock him out, and that took a grand total of like 3 attempts there to get through the champion. Really not that bad. So it took 1 hour, 40 minutes, 5 seconds to get through that. Of course, there are a lot of spots where you're relying on sleep luck in order to get through the toughest fights. But once you manage it, it's really not that bad with this Pokemon. A final score of 95.1. We had 19 resets in that run. Obviously, it's not an optimized run. We're running on 0 DVs here. We don't use vitamins. You throw max DVs on this Pokemon, it's way more consistent than that. And we only had to learn 3 TMs in the entire run, which is kind of nuts. And honestly, I'm not sure if the Swift strat that we used against Sabrina is actually the best strat to go there. Given our lower attack stat, there might have been a better strategy. Honestly, though, really not too bad in this one. And Ninetales establishes that if it were just the Fire Ghost type with some of the moves that it has learned throughout the history of the Pokemon franchise, in Gen 1, it would be a minimum battles beast. So as our rival complains that he never made any mistakes raising his Pokemon, I think he's actually pretty accurate. It's the fact that his grandfather finally played a trick on him by giving him a Pokemon that couldn't affect ours at the beginning of the game, and he never learned from his mistakes. I guess that's the real mistake there, is that he should have realized, I should kind of put a move on my ace that will affect a Ghost type. Maybe I should not use a Flareon here. But he's just not that smart when it comes to raising his team, so we get the easy victory as Grandpa comes to stunt on him and register our Ghost Tails in the Hall of Fame. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Massive thank you to the folks who recommended that on previous videos. Sorry, I don't have their names here right away, but I'll pin it in a comment or something down below. As usual, if you have a run request, feel free to send them my way. I'm always read all of them. Every comment I try to respond to at least as quickly as I can. And sometimes we get really fun ones like this. And as long as it's a fun idea, I'm pretty much down to do it. Anyway, I just want to give a massive thank you to everybody who watches to the end, the channel members for your continued support. If you have not already seen the video that I posted on my other kind of secret little channel, I have cleared one of my major hurdles to becoming a full-time PokeTuber, so I'm really excited for 2026 when there's probably going to be a lot more coming your way. Anyway, that's all I got for you in this one. See you in the next video. Later.